On se retrouve pour le live stream des devs de Bungie sur Renegade, que moi j'attends particulièrement parce que personnellement j'adore Star Wars. Voilà, et c'est censé être dans l'état d'esprit de Star Wars, en tout cas dans le mood. Et par contre, ils ont bien précisé que c'était la suite de l'histoire de Edge of Fate. Hein. C'est pas un truc spin-off, ils l'ont déjà précisé ça sur les réseaux. Et on a bien sûr la mise à jour Ashen Iron qui arrive, qu'on va tester juste après d'ailleurs. On va prendre une petite rediff. Et je serai accompagnée de Vaudou pour suivre ce livestream tranquillement, en détente, comme d'habitude. On regarde. Tranquillou, en direct.
Guardians, welcome. My name is Dylan. I'm going to be your host today.
Bonjour Dylan.
And happy 11-year anniversary to Destiny 1's launch.
Ça fait 11 ans.
I wanted to make sure to cover that at the very top because it's kind of mind melting. 11 years of Destiny. I had no idea we'd be here. Today we have a ton to talk through, so we're going to rush through this. No, we aren't going to rush. But we have Renegades. We have some really cool stuff to talk about that's going to be coming in December. We have a wonderful update from our development team. We've been listening, we're looking at your feedback, and we actually have some plans that are coming together right now to address it since Edge of Fate launched. And then we also have, on the second half of the show, we're going to be looking at Ashen Iron. We'll have a bunch of devs on the couch. We're going to talk about the activities, the loot, and potentially a new exotic that you might have been asking about. So, without further ado, Robbie, how you doing? Welcome back to the couch.
Hey, Dylan, it's great to be here. And like you were talking here in the intro, like we've got some really big changes coming based on all the feedback we're getting from the Edge of Fate that we'll talk about right after we give a little bit of a first look at Renegades here. That's why we got our laptops, right? There's a lot to get through, and there's a lot to talk about. So we're just got to Dylan and I are making sure we're going to get through it all. So we've been hard at work on collaborating with our friends at Lucasfilm Games to make something that is like unmistakably Star Wars, but authentically a Destiny story and experience.
Ils ont tellement réussi à bien mélanger les deux univers.
And I'm going to embrace my inner Scarrow and ask, Robbie, is there a Vidoc?
Yeah, so you all asked for it. You're going to get it. We're about to play a Vidoc that is our first look at the Lawless Frontier. You're stepping into a world of criminals, shady deals, with an arsenal at your disposal that you'll only be able to find within a black market here that's emerged within Seoul. And so, yeah, let's take our first look at Renegades.
Il m'a même dit que j'étais la seule à avoir respecté le timing d'interview et que c'était trop bien. C'est tout, c'est tout. Oh là, c'est dessiné ça.
Seeing how stunningly Star Wars it felt was electric.
I just jumped into that walker and I just annihilated the encounter.
Squeezing that trigger and feeling that blaster just go off. It was like a whole new world opened up for me.
Aussi.
There's something really special here that we haven't really done in Destiny before.
That ignition, that hiss, that sound.
Oh, it's like that. Okay.
J'aime trop cette
bien. Voilà. On est d'accord. C'est la narrative.
Elle pourrait me raconter des trucs sur Destiny pendant des heures.
Exact.
It's here we draw a line in the sand where we start the long journey to fight our fate. In Renegades, Guardians infiltrate a criminal underworld to save a friend whose past has caught up with him and disrupt the rise of powerful new enemies. In special collaboration with Lucasfilm Games, we took inspiration from Star Wars to craft a one-of-a-kind Destiny story. Renegades redefines what an expansion can be. It brings the grit, guns, and glory of a space western to Destiny. But Renegades isn't just about power. It's about what you're willing to risk to change the future.
The folks at Lucasfilm were such great collaborators. They understood that in order for this to work, we had to find where the Venn diagram of our two stories meet. Themes of underdogs rising up against something much larger than themselves. Themes of hope. Those little places in that Venn diagram were the ones that really helped us find the story that we want to tell together.
If you look at Star Wars and you look at Destiny, you can kind of see that parallel that exists. So for instance, our Dredgen, they're our Sith.
Pretty Sithy.
Yeah, and then you've got the Barrett Imperium, and they are very, very Empire-like. They have a huge appetite for expansion.
I think of the Praxic Order. There are Jedi in this police, and they are very focused on order and law and understanding that there is a binary in our universe of good and evil. We get to poke at that a little bit in a way that suits our story and our world, while still feeling very much like the inspiration that we're calling from. Edge of Fate leaves us with a really big pass forward into the future. We know of this prophecy now that tells us that we need to bind the Nine or we face extinction. And Drifter was there on Kepler. He saw all of this.
Le français devrait être de retour, les gens. Parce que là, il revient, même pour Edge of Fate.
Drifter is convinced that there's a connection between the Nine and the rise of this new faction, the Barrent Imperium. He sees them rising at an unnaturally fast rate and is insistent that there's a problem. But the Vanguard isn't listening. They're insisting that he needs to stand down.
The cool thing about this criminal underworld is you and Drifter and your crew, you come in at the bottom, and at the top, there's the Barrent Imperium. You need to work with all these crooked criminal syndicates in between, earning your power, building up the notoriety, getting the gear that you need to take down that powerful Imperium at the top.
There's a weapon that the Barrent Imperium have made, and we need to be the ones to destroy it. And we're not going to be able to do that unless we work with exactly the kind of people that we normally fight. So we're going to head out to the lawless frontier, and one job at a time, we're going to take down the Imperium.
The Lawless Frontier is filled with big, chaotic, cooperative activities. You're going to choose the job, you're going to choose which renegade abilities you're going to take into those jobs, and then you're going to drop into the action with your team, smash up those objectives, get as many riches and treasures as you can, and then get out or die trying.
Ça, j'aime bien quand il y a des petits mini-boss un petit peu partout.
To do that, you're going to go to the Lost Frontier holo map. You'll see Mars, Europa, and Venus with swamps that are very reminiscent of Dagobah. There's some hints of Hoth in Europa, right?
Yeah.
For fans of both Star Wars and Destiny, like Mars, which is some pits that are very reminiscent of Sarlacc pits, and you don't want to fall into them, you'll die.
These are Destiny locations. It's just we're taking inspiration from some of these iconic places in Star Wars.
Après, c'est vraiment la planète qui fit le mieux avec l'univers de Star Wars.
And you're going to pick a bounty hunting job for the Fallen to take out some Cabal. And then you either matchmake with people online, you take your crew with you, you can play solo. Every time you drop in, you might be in a different location on the map. Your objectives are going to be a little different each time, and it also might be a different time of day. So there's a lot of variety and richness within these activities. We want them to be highly replayable. Along the way, we're going to throw a bunch of curveballs. You might run into a missile tower that's trying to take you out from halfway across the map. And you have to like divert and take it out, and you get some extra credits out of that.
T'as la map sans feuillage et t'as la map avec le feuillage.
You got left.
Après, il y a les différentes destinations et le temps, quoi.
All hell drops in on your head from the Cabal. Your ship flies in, you hop aboard, and you gotta exfil.
Des trucs comme ça.
Over the course of the campaign and deep into the post-game of Renegades, you're going to be unlocking and earning a bunch of different Renegade abilities.
We got things like airstrikes.
Attends, on peut envoyer des boules sur les
drop
ennemis.
Pods.
Des gigaboules,
Vehicles
oui.
like Cabal walkers.
Ouais.
Interceptors. Swoop bikes.
On sera pas les seuls à mourir des gigaboules.
Je veux faire ça.
We've got 9 abilities, 7 upgrades. There's a ton of stuff that you can bring in and just change how things play.
It's like a tech tree of options.
It's like a whole tree of options across support, defensive, and offensive abilities. So
Ça va
there's
vraiment
going
être
to have
comme
a
ça ou pas?
lot
Parce que
to play with here.
Ouais, je sais pas, mais c'est
The
méga
Lost
stylé.
Frontier isn't just about raw power. It's about influence. Shady backroom deals, working for these powerful syndicates and against them at different times. And all of this takes place at the heart of the criminal underworld in Tharsis Outpost.
The Vanguard have been preoccupied. They've been off saving the world, and they haven't been looking at Tharsis. It's changed a lot since the last time we were there.
It's now this thriving black market, this criminal underworld. Tharsis Junction became Tharsis Outpost. If you have an unsavory job that you need done, you can find it at Tharsis Outpost.
Tharsis Outpost feels appropriate for both Star Wars and for us. When we looked at Mos Eisley as inspiration, we knew that we could play in that playground in a really fun way. From the ghosts that you'll see floating around to when Elixni with all 4 of his Elixni arms shaking things. We took that inspiration and we found the Destiny spin on it.
Criminal
syndicates have moved in.
You're working with the syndicates.
You are
building your notoriety with them.
The 3 different syndicates that we created, we're going to be dealing with. The Pikers are Elixni. They're kind of like an anarchist biker gang. Unlike other Elixni, they're atheists. They don't worship machines. They follow relics. We've also got the Totality Division, a subsect of the Barent Imperium. They're run by Scions, and their enforcer Rao is going to be the leader of this group. And we've got Tharsis Reformation. They are a breakaway group from Maya's Vex. They're starting to think for themselves and figure out what it means to be an individual.
They're starting to do crime. They're wearing clothes.
Crime and wearing clothes are what all individuals do. We need to have new people to fight and new people to root for. And this was our opportunity.
But the heart of the Renegade fantasy is not just surviving the lawless frontier. It's garnering influence and building your power so that you can bend it to your will.
In the end game, we get the best weapons, the best armor, the coolest exclusive cosmetics. You're going to need to work with the syndicates to increase your notoriety by completing jobs successfully, alone or with a crew, and then doing so you'll unlock our highest risk, highest reward jobs. And at the same time, you're going to have the ability to do the special job that'll take you off planet to the dungeon.
Ça m'a déçu qu'il mêlait pas à la fin du Japon.
And you'll also unlock Invasion.
That's right. Invasion is back. But this doesn't work like Gambit. It's opt-in. The invader has some initiative when invasion begins. This is more strategic.
Oh,
you scan the battlefield and you're like, okay, is this the right time for me to take the shot? And what's the right tool for me to do it? Do I use an airstrike or a vehicle? Do I use a Cabal Walker?
Just watch out for that double cross.
Yeah.
Un peu là-dedans. Un peu là-dedans.
Ça va être trop bien.
Mais c'est bien, hein. Prochaine update de Metal Low.
Renegades marks the Guardian's descent into a criminal underworld. A world of shadows and syndicates, where your light and your choices will cut a path forward. You'll fight dirty, break the rules, and build a hardened crew that can take on any job, standing up to the most ruthless syndicates in the system.
L'armure du Titan, par contre.
De toute façon, comme d'habitude, qui est le plus beau?
L'arcaniste, c'est le chasseur.
Le chasseur.
Even in the darkest corners of this world, there's still a glimmer of hope. Guardians will have to find their own version of balance between loyalty and survival,
Après mon
between
armure
power and
du
purpose.
solstice, elle est grave cool.
Because there's more at play than credits and contracts. Forces are on the move. Ones that see you not just as a player, but as a piece on the board.
Oh, il y aura un donjon en plus.
Oui.
To change the future, you'll have to become the one thing they never saw coming.
Faut continuer les cinématiques avec les statuettes là-bas, c'est trop stylé.
Start the engines. Take off as soon as you can.
Waouh.
Ah, elle est badass, elle, non?
Ah ouais. Le sabre jaune.
Très bien de faire ça, j'ai envie de jouer maintenant, du coup.
Bah oui.
All right, welcome back. Sorry, I love Vidocs. I gotta stop looking at chat. Let's get the show on the road. So pre-orders for the new Renegade Standard Edition start right now. And we actually have some added bonuses. Even if you pre-ordered the, what do we got? Year of Prophecy Edition, we have 2 additional cosmetics that are going live today with the patch. The Starside Introduction Emblem and a new exotic ship, which we call the Renegade Leader. You're gonna see it on the screen right now, and I'm going to ask a silly question. What are we looking at?
I mean, I think we're kind of looking at something that looks like an X-Wing here a little bit, maybe a little Red Leader action. So, I mean, this is one of our homages, right? That's the team had a lot of fun with. So we wanted to build like an iconic ship, Dylan, that kicked off the road to Renegades here over the next few months. And what's cool about this is you're actually going to see your ship, whatever ship you have equipped, that's going to be flying by when you deploy your Renegade abilities in the Lawless Frontier. And also, you're going to be using your ship to go between different areas within the Plaguelands here in the Reclaim activity that's launching today as well.
Awesome. So with, pre-orders talked about, let's dive into the Vidoc. Robbie, where are we starting?
Yeah, so I think it's like probably best. There's so much like to do a really kind of quick overview of what we looked at here. So Renegades thrust you and your crew into the heart of a lawless frontier that's emerged around Mars, Europa, and Venus, all new locations across those places. And you're trying to keep up with Drifter, ultimately, who's chasing startling visions of calamity and rumors of a powerful new Cabal faction that's rising.
C'est trop beau, ça, hein?
That Imperium's installed themselves as top dog in the criminal underworld, and Drifter's convinced that the Nine is involved with the Imperium's rapid growth. It wouldn't be the first time the Nine have meddled in the background and done some crazy things with Cabal-related enemies. Anyway, so to deal with the Imperium, you're going to take on the role of a renegade. As a Guardian, you're going to smuggle, sabotage, bounty hunt your way to the top of the lawless frontier, and that means you're going to be working with the shady syndicates to build your influence within Tharsis. But ultimately, like, this is for the right reason. You're being the bad guy to do the right thing because you can't really ignore this prophecy of extinction that showed up at the Edge of Fate. Yeah.
So I mean, you mentioned Drifter. We have a pretty stellar cast here, and there was a new character that we showed up.
Yeah, we showed one of our new characters. That's a new member of your crew who comes from the Praxic Order, actually.
Les premiers sont stylés, mais j'aime bien le style qu'ils ont donné.
Tasked with tracking down reports of dredging activity across the lawless frontier, and they've also been tasked with keeping an eye on Drifter because he's been seeing and saying some crazy stuff lately. And this is all being done in defiance of the Vanguard, so this Praxic Order is kind of here to kind of be oversight of everything's happening. We've got a bunch of villains too alongside the criminal syndicates and their bosses. We just don't want to spoil too much right now. We're going to have more on the story closer to launch.
All right, so we've got smuggling, sabotaging, bounty hunting, wearing clothes, doing crime. Let's talk about the gameplay.
Yeah, so being an individual means crimes and clothes. We've established that. So one thing to like make sure is clear here, like in the campaign that has a bunch of story missions, it's going to introduce you to also the jobs that you'll be taking in addition to those story missions within the lawless frontier. So you'll be kind of climbing the ranks of the criminal underworld here because the syndicates are not going to trust you out the gate. You kind of have to influence them before they're going to help you out in dealing with the Imperium. And so then at the conclusion of the campaign, once that Imperium's chokehold is kind of loosened on Tharsis and the lawless frontier, you unintentionally kick off a turf war between the three syndicates because now they're all vying for power because you kind of toppled the top dog of their power hierarchy.
Yeah. And so let's talk about this. In December, the lawless frontier is coming. It's not just like a concept. It's an activity.
Yeah, and I know we're showing something on screen right now that like is like when you go through this like daily ritual of dealing with contested territory, you'll be able to like target the syndicate you want to kind of like take down in that moment. But ultimately, the lawless frontier is a new activity where you'll be carrying out a variety of those missions, those smuggle, bounty hunt, sabotaging. I think you kind of can tell what they're going to be all about just with the name of them. And this is you just partnering with and against the syndicates. And so it's fast, it's tactical, and it's going to throw a ton of enemies and a variety of objectives within each of these jobs at your fire team in new locations across Mars, Europa, and Venus. This is all about big, chaotic co-op action within the lawless frontier. Yeah.
Cool. And then when you're working with the syndicates, like, I expect to be paid when I take on a job. Like, what are they going to be giving us?
Every criminal does.
Yeah,
right. You know what I mean? So, well, like one thing just to like talk about at the top because Tom and I are really excited about this, the creative lead on Renegades. The Cabal have been dropping pods on your head for like 8 years now, something like that. And so with one of our Renegade abilities, we kind of get to turn the table on the Cabal and drop one on them. It also supplies you some ammo and stuff too, some nice convenience there. But the campaign ultimately like introduce you to a number of these abilities. In the turf war, you'll actually choose which syndicates you want to pledge to in order to unlock more abilities and a bigger suite of upgrades. Also, depending on which syndicate you're pledged to, there will be other bonuses and weekly shipments coming into Tharsis as well. And so one thing I want to note too is that all of these renegade abilities that we're talking about in the Vidoc, they're purely additive to your subclass abilities. The renegade abilities do not override any of your other
super,
your melee, your grenade. That's all at your disposal on top of these renegade abilities. We really wanted to lean into the idea of this fantasy of you working with your crew and the various roles you could play within the Lost Frontiers of all these different type of jobs that you're going to be doing.
Awesome. And then I have to give a shout out to James Tsai. He's
Ils
frankly
sont
one of
moins
the biggest Star Wars
limités du
nerds I've
coup
ever
par
met in my
le fait
life.
qu'ils doivent
But
absolument
he was talking
suivre quelque
about
chose.
the blaster and
Oui,
that
non, ouais.
feel the first time he shot it. Like, let's talk about him.
Yeah, I love that blaster, and because like my personal joke is it's like Forerunner at home. It's kind of like a legendary version of that exotic, and it just feels fucking incredible. Oh, sorry, it feels incredible. Excuse me.
Oh.
For kids at home. So we're gonna have a weapons
C'est
deep
décalé, là.
dive close to launch. I know it keeps saying that. There's a ton of the Vidoc. There's even more to be talked about in the next few months. But what we can say about blasters right now is they're new, powerful weapons in your arsenal, and they actually draw ammo straight from your reserves, Dylan. And so the mechanic of this
côté
is
pro qui
basically
s'en allait
heating
un
up
petit
the gun
moment.
and then venting it out. So no reloading technically, but since you have to like charge up heat and you have to think about overheating, it's a whole mechanic and has its own special reload associated with it. And so it's going to be all about finding like the rhythm of pace and battle between building up heat and venting it. It's really fun to play around with, and the team is really honing in on something like that feels really
Ouais, on
special.
a déjà eu un peu avec les 30
So
ans.
we're
mais
not
bon,
going to go
pas-
too deep on campaign because spoilers. We want to let players discover that.
Yeah.
We've talked about the Lawless Frontier, but one of the components is invasions.
Oh yeah. So you're going to unlock invasion as part of that turf war we've been talking about. And the syndicates are like reaching out to you and they're giving you contracts to play Hitman against other Guardian crews. So it's 1 versus 3. It's you versus a Guardian crew on the Lawless Frontier. And like we said in the Vidoc, invasion is 100% opt-in for both the invaders and the defending fireteam crew. But don't worry, because all of the difficulty modes, there's always an option that is available to you if you don't want to engage in invasion. Yeah,
Okay.
we
Si
wanted
vous
to make
voulez
sure
pas
that
faire
because like
le-
even though some
la
people
nouvelle
love
activité
that
PVP, il y aura
PvE
d'autres
chocolate
options.
mixing with that PvP peanut butter, we wanted to make
C'est
sure
très
that
bien.
if you didn't want to do that, there's always an option for you to do something else within the Lawless Frontier.
And then if you do opt in, though, there's more rewards or incentive, right?
I mean, yeah, you're like asking, you're basically saying, hey, Fireteam, I'm open to having another Guardian come and wreck shop and mess my day up, right? And so you're taking a higher risk, so therefore there's a chance of higher reward depending on how you handle that, right?
Cool. Yeah, I mean, so that covers gameplay effectively. We do have a dungeon. We showed a little tease, but again, no spoilers. We'll let you discover that on day one. Let's talk about the last thing that
Je pense que le
players
donjon va
may
être
have
trop
seen,
beau.
or the first thing, honestly. We saw chat.
Il y a
load
moyen.
up. Let's talk about the saber.
Right. So, yeah,
Les
this
sables
is
laser.
Destiny's homage, right? It's our love letter to the Star Wars lightsaber. And we're calling it the Praxic Blade. Again, we'll be sharing a whole lot more closer to launch. I'm really sorry. I feel like a parrot right now just saying the same thing. But what I can say is that the Praxic Blade is going to be highly customizable in both gameplay and visuals. And so there's going to be a ton of parts and components that you'll be chasing and discovering throughout the Lawless
Ça, c'est
Frontier,
cool, hein?
within the Turf
Ça me
War,
plaît.
Oui, il y
within
aura
the
des
dungeon
parts, les
itself.
gens à
And
récupérer
this is all about kind of making the
pour
Praxic Blade
personnaliser
your own.
le gameplay et
And
le
you saw it in
visuel
the
du
Vidoc,
sabre.
but the blade really does feel truly exotic right now. You can do things with it that no other weapon can do in
C'est
Destiny.
pour ton sub,
And
Zax.
I really can't wait to players get their
Après,
hands
est-ce que
on
ça
it.
va être une arme qu'on
Awesome.
a
Well,
ou
that's it for Renegades.
un item que
We
tu
have
peux
two
te
more big
récupérer à un
subjects to go
spot
through.
précis à
So
chaque fois?
thanks for running us through that.
Of course.
Our next section is going to be
Ah, tu
all
veux dire,
about
est-ce que ça va être
quality
un
of life.
loot ou
It's
est-ce que
going to
ça
be
va être
about a
une
lot of
quête avec
feedback
des
that we've been seeing in the
emplacements?
live game
Moi, je vois
since
ça
Edge
plus
of Fate
comme
launched, and then after that we'll be
quand on a
talking about
récupéré
Ash
les
and Iron
intrinsèques et
with
tout là
another
pour
cast of devs
le
to talk about
revolver.
a bunch of cool
Ouais.
stuff.
Ouais, je pense que
So,
ça, j'espère que c'est un truc comme ça en tout
ultimately,
cas.
we have
Ouais.
quite a lot coming over the
C'est
next
vraiment
few
une
months.
nouvelle
We're
épée
going to be
sabre
talking
laser.
about a bunch of
Ouais, puis
high-level
après tu builds ton
goals,
truc quoi.
objectives, some of our philosophy. We do
Fait
not
qu'il y ait
have a
Eagle Edge
roadmap
dessus.
today, but we
Je vous en
will have a
supplie.
roadmap in the next few weeks outlining our road to
Les
Renegades,
sabres
which
laser
I've been calling it
Garage.
selfishly. So
tout ce
we'll
que
figure
je
out a
veux.
fancier name for it at some point.
Voir
But
Dash en faisant le bruit
let's
d'un
dive in.
sabre laser.
I think the first thing that I want to talk about here, let me get this up. I mean, ultimately, this feels like we're having a mini community summit on stream.
Yeah.
But let's talk about rewards. Let's talk about the portal. Let's talk about power. Let's talk about the climb and the feedback that we've been seeing.
Yeah, so to do a little bit more table setting and framing here, like we said at the top of the stream, we've
Donc
been
ça ira
taking
plus
a
vite de
lot of
monter en
this feedback to
puissance.
heart, right? We've been listening very intently. We've been looking at our data.
Des buffs
And
pour le portail, oui,
Dylan,
il
we
était
know we
temps
need
là.
to make some changes, right? And so this is what this whole next section is going to be about. We're
Amélioration
going to
des
talk about
récompenses
a
de
ton
raid
of
et de
stuff.
donjons.
Some of it, a little
faire
bit of it is going to come from
suffisamment
Ash and Iron, a lot more in Renegades, and then even more in the future. And so
En fait, les
coming back to
activités
the
les
power
plus difficiles
climb,
du jeu, mais ne
we
bouquez
wanted to
rien.
be faster,
C'est
we
ça.
wanted to have improved rewards, and we really wanted to highlight
Alors ils disent
new and
buff au
aspirational
portail, mais ils ont pas
activities
aimé quand on montait vite
when
dans
Renegades
un...
launches. And so that means looking at the
J'espère qu'ils vont laisser
Renegades
si c'est fort,
campaign
si on va vite, si
and
on
the
va vite,
Renegades
c'est comme ça.
jobs
Hein.
and the Lawless Frontier and the activities you
Je
do
crois
there,
que là, avec
and
la
making
mise à
sure
jour
that they
d'aujourd'hui, il y a
both feel
déjà
like
des
great
améliorations du
sources of
portail.
seasonal
On
power.
va voir ça.
We
Avec
know
des
with the Edge
chances
of Fate, after you
de
completed the
looter
campaign on Kepler,
du haut level, mais
that
c'est genre une
there's
chance.
a bunch of cool stuff to do and some rewards to get, but it didn't fit into the seasonal power game, right? It didn't feel like it was a viable path. And so these big chaotic fire team based jobs that we've built and all that variety we're pouring into it is going to be this engine to climb seasonal power if you're just loving that activity.
Le
You're
mot-clé
going
que
to be
je
able
l'ai
to
utilisé pour
spend
tester, c'était
an
fusil.
enormous amount of
Oui.
time there.
Yeah, and you touched on aspirational content.
Fusil
So when we
coupé,
look
des
at it,
fusils.
you're doing the power climb, but
De
you're
prendre
looking
un
at the
mot
end
d'une
game,
autre
and our
personne
raids
juste
and
avant.
dungeons are a part of that.
Yes, they
Oui, t'avais
are.
mis le
So
fusil que
we
le
are
star,
making
non?
sure here
Ah
there's two
oui,
approaches we're
intelligent, c'est
taking
bon.
and a bunch of work that's going to come
En
out
vrai,
of
moi
it. So
j'avais dit,
our
hein,
focus initially here is going
elle
to be on
était
the
juste
new
trop
raid and
lente la montée
dungeon
du portail, mais je trouvais ça
content in
pas
this
mal.
conversation.
Donc
So that is
parfait.
Desert Perpetual, the Epic Raid here in a couple weeks, and then the dungeon releasing with Ash
Qui
and
rend ça
Iron.
moins long.
And so we want to make sure that those are more dependable sources of power, both
412
from
là, je crois.
weekly challenges, some of which that are going to happen in Ash and Iron, but then also we're going to be looking at the power drops that come when you're completing encounters and
J'ai même
looking
plus le
to see if
robinet
we
du
can
chaos,
adjust
je suis en
those
train
and
de lire
juice
le
them up a
message.
little bit. The other big
Oui, non,
area,
c'est
because
plus
what we're
Robinet
talking
Chaos.
about when we say
Mais c'est
aspiration
le
is like
même.
in-game. You're doing an
Ouais.
in-game thing. I should be rewarded for that. So with the launch of the Epic Raid for the Desert Perpetual and Epic Raid and then the dungeon afterwards, we're going to make all drops, the base drops you earn in that content, tier 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's ultimately attesting to like players got through some of the power grind, they went into the raid and they were seeing tier 1, tier 2 drops, and that
Right.
didn't feel like endgame loot.
It
So
did not.
Ah oui,
we're
oui.
making this tier 3 is the
Ouais.
baseline, but then you can build up to tier 4 and tier 5 as you add
Tier
more
3 de
challenge,
base
add
sur
more
du coup Raid
difficulty.
et Donjons,
Yeah,
les gens.
and we, sorry, I think we hit on it, but I just want to make sure.
4 et
We
5
talked
en
about
mettant
improved
les... en
rewards,
faisant les
right,
défis qui permettent
around some of the
d'améliorer.
newer content that is coming. This effort, though, is also being applied across
Après,
the portal
il fallait
itself.
pique.
And so,
Tier 3.
Dylan, I know you and I have talked about it
Et
a
ouais,
bunch. You know, we talked about
j'aurais mis
solo
tier
ops,
4 de
right?
base, tu vois.
Yeah, you mentioned
Voilà.
Caldera.
Yeah, let's talk
Tier
about
3,
variety
c'est ce que
and
tu
portal
lootes en
and more
assaut,
reasons
quoi.
and more
Ouais.
ways to
Tier
play.
3 sur
Yeah,
du Raid,
exactly.
pour
And
moi,
part
c'est
of that,
encore
right?
trop
Part of
bas.
that theory right here is just like that thinking is we just have to
Et
improve
tier
those rewards,
4 et
right? And so
un raid
a
un peu
lot of what we're
amélioré, tu
doing
loot
is
du
going to be
T5, quoi.
about
T'as une
bringing
chance
the
de looter du
Ou alors
T5
ils
au
baseline
pire.
font que
of the
par
reward
exemple
experience with
un par
Renegades
tu vois,
up
genre
to
une
that
qu'à la
closer to
fin,
that
c'est un
Ouais.
solo
tier
ops
4, mais au moins que tu puisses
experience, and
faire
also
tier
really
4 direct.
incentivize playing in fire teams more because hey, we know Destiny's feeling lonely right now if all you do
Et
is
que
spend
coffre au
time in the
final,
mines,
t'aies une chance
right?
sur
And
je
so
sais pas
we want
combien,
to
comme
do a
l'Exo de
much.
looter un
We know we
T5.
need to do a
Ouais.
much better
Ouais.
job at
Yeah.
that. The other,
Ouais,
Just
voilà,
to,
faudrait que ce soit
right,
des chances.
just to go into that example, like we're talking about Caldera, it's a
Une chance
solo op
d'obtenir du tier
activity,
4 et
and
une chance
players
encore
feel
plus
it is
faible
the most
d'obtenir un tier
viable
5,
path
ça
to
serait
power.
bien.
So a
Yeah.
social game like
Bref, c'est
Destiny,
pas ça qu'ils ont
it
fait.
is a
Hein.
problem where
Ne
you
confondez
feel
pas
like
les
you
gens.
should be
On
playing
se rend
alone
compte.
for all the reasons. It's like, hey, sorry friends, you want to play Raid, you want to play something else? Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm going to go into Caldera and play alone.
Yeah.
We want to address that. We
Yes.
want to make sure Destiny is social, fun to play with friends, while still
Ou ils veulent
maintaining, hey, as a
qu'on
solo player, you can
se
absolutely
remette
hop
à jouer en
in,
équipe.
but we aren't going to make you feel
Oh, je
worse.
dois
So
supporter Vaudou.
example there too, we said, hey, we're going to tone down Caldera and solo ops.
Moi j'étais bien
We're
toute
actually
seule sur
reverting that.
Caldera.
We'd announced
Non,
it,
je
we're
rigole.
taking that back, and as
À
you
faire
said,
les
that's the new
tanks.
benchmark. We're going
En
to raise
plus,
things
Caldera,
up
c'est pas
to
celui que j'ai
feel
le
like
plus
Caldera
farm.
and feel rewarding like solo ops.
Yeah, and we've already talked about that. We're going to do some of that in Ash and Iron. One of the other things we're looking
Ouais,
at
j'ai pas
doing in
beaucoup
Ash
de
and Iron right
farm
now
non
is
plus en
taking
soi.
Celui qui a le plus
bonus
su pendant le
engrams
solstice,
and having
moi
them
c'était celui
just more
qui se passe à
consistently
l'endroit
award
de
power
Clovis.
deeper into the climb
Ouais.
and adjusting that. We're also, this
Oui.
is a good segue,
Ouais,
I
avec
think, kind of into
la
our
zone à
next
capturer au tout
area,
début et à la fin.
Ouais.
where we can
Ça.
talk more
Ouais.
about reworks
je
we're
l'ai-
going to be
je
doing
pense
in the
que-
game and some changes we're making. So the other thing we're going to be doing with
Beaucoup
bonus
dosé.
engrams when Renegades launches
J'aime bien
is
le
they're
leader
going to
de
feed
Clovis.
more into a
Ouais,
weekly
moi aussi.
ritual. You know, a thing that
Et
you
un
know
gros côté
when it
marathon.
launches, there's a bunch of stuff to do that's going to
Il y a
accelerate
quelqu'un
you
qui dit dans le
in the
chat
power climb.
de
Yeah, I
donner
mean,
quelque
let's talk
chose
about
pour
the
que
effectively
les gens refassent les
weekly
anciens raids et
reset,
donjons.
curated
Je suis plutôt
activities
d'accord
from
avec ça,
Bungie,
ce
so you
serait
have a
bien.
moment each week of
Ouais.
let's hop into raid night, let's do grandmasters, things like that.
Yeah, so the
Création,
thing you're
ouais, c'est
speaking
ça.
to,
Bah,
Dylan, the thing we talk about a
Comme
lot
avant,
is
où il
like,
y en avait genre qui étaient
yeah, Clan Night, Raid
mis
Night,
en
right?
avant
We
dans
got to
la
get that
semaine, c'était
feeling
pas.
of hey, I
On pouvait
log in on
ajouter
Tuesday and there's just
un
like a
bon
bunch
truc
of
sur un
stuff
ancien
to look forward to.
donjon.
And
bref.
so a few ways we're going to do that is one with a new system that we're calling Vanguard orders that comes out in Renegades. So Vanguard orders are actually this like, new objective system where you're going to be, and we should have a mock-up on screen
Donc, un nouveau
right now.
système
It looks like
d'objectifs.
our monitor isn't showing the exact right thing just for our place in the
Ils
studio,
s'appellent
so I'm just
les
going to assume it's
Vanguard
working. And so within these Vanguard orders,
orders.
you're going to have all these different objectives that you can do, and you don't have to
Weekly Legacy
pick these
Raid
up
et
like
Dungeon.
bounties, right? These are things that
Ça,
will just
c'est
be
bien.
automatically
Voilà, c'est
granted
ce
to
dont on parlait à
you
l'instant.
when you log into the portal. And then what's really cool about
Pourquoi
these
il
is that
l'avait
they
enlevé
pull
en
some of
vrai?
that like Destiny 1
Ah, c'est
bounty
bien.
vibe, where as you complete
bien
an
ça.
order on the left-hand side of the screen of this mock-up here, you will
Peut-être,
actually roll. You can roll on higher
Red
tier
Full
orders, like a
Empereur des Rats.
legendary order that will give you consistent
Pas
rewards,
tellement.
or an exotic
Alors,
tier
peut-être.
order that can give you exotic tier rewards. And so this is all about just creating a bunch more like little moments of variety within the portal and these different little objectives that you can do.
Ils peuvent nous donner
We already
l'image de
touched
fond, elle est très
on
belle.
bonus engrams a little bit, and how we're going to be reworking those even more with Renegade's launches to feed into that idea of like, look at all these things in the
Ouais, c'est
portal.
ça,
I
c'est
know
le
if I
truc de
go
la
and
semaine en
gobble
gros,
up
c'est
all the
donjons
green
et raids de la
engrams,
semaine.
I'm accelerating on my power climb, and
Et
that's
non,
much
mais du coup,
easier
ça
and clear
donne un
for
truc
players to
pour refaire
understand.
les anciens
But the
contenus,
other
quoi.
place that we've been getting a ton of feedback on, and
Oh,
we're going to be
oui,
making
tu
Surtout
veux
pas
les
faire
changes
faire.
tout le
to
temps le
is the
dernier truc
weekly
sorti.
conquests,
voilà.
basically. So right now, we have the concept of the
Parce que c'est vrai
conquest
que
as a
là, on faisait que des
milestone
contenus Age
on
of
your seasonal
Fate.
power journey, and it gives you like a massive, like big dump of rewards. We are going to be making those like we're going to be making it repeatable, but then there's going to be a weekly reward for them. There's
Ok,
no way
récompense de
for
la
us,
semaine.
honestly, to balance the crazy amount of rewards you get from the milestones, but we're going to make sure we incentivize them and create a weekly version as
and we
well.
actually have a change going live today to make conquests repeatable, but the rewards component is what we need to focus on for a future update.
C'est pour
Yeah, and
Renegade que
Dylan,
ça
you and I were
sort
talking about this a
Phoenix.
bunch over the last couple of days. Is like we want to
Ouais.
get back to that. Like we want to get conquest
Après,
closer
ça
to
va
that
arriver vite,
GM
hein, c'est en
feeling, that
décembre.
Grandmaster Nightfall feeling of the past, and that's kind of like our little North Star for that.
Yep.
The other big thing too that we've been listening to feedback
Septembre
on
va
and we're,
passer
we're
en
moving
éclair.
really, really fast on right now
Octobre,
oui.
Arc
is
Raiders.
getting weekly legacy
Novembre, il va
raid
se passer un
and
truc,
dungeon
je sais pas.
content as like a tunnel
Et
from
hop,
the portal
décembre.
to that. So to set expectations here with Renegades, this is going to first come in the form of, hey, reasons to play this content, to do like weekly challenges and
Ouais, après on sera
powerful
déjà en
rewards
2026.
from them, right? Again, we want
Voilà.
this weekly reset. We want you to clearly know when you log in, here's a bunch of stuff to look forward to play with your friends and others. The reason I have to set expectations though is like we hear the feedback about wanting the gear reprised from
Bien
Raids and
capté, hein.
Dungeons. Dylan, if we could just like flip a switch
Ce serait bien aussi,
and
c'est
make that happen, I think we'd be
qu'on a un
more than
moyen
happy
de
to do that.
rebooter
But it's just not that
les
simple.
armures
There's a bunch
d'événements
of work that goes into actually creating
Ouais.
the new gear and the gear
Ça, c'est
tiers.
bien.
hors
And
événement.
so we are going to be looking to make the reward experience of Legacy and Raid
Ça
Dungeons
sent le
better
mime de
as
puant
time
devant son
goes
PC
on.
avec
Our
un
first
blister.
focus is making it fit
Tellement
into
lit.
that weekly reset and into that power climb.
And we have our first step today with dungeon lairs. In the portal, there are going to be three encounters coming from
Pense sur les
legacy
exos.
dungeon content. You can get power bumps from those. You can get portal gear from those, but we hear the feedback on general rewards.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
Est-ce qu'ils vont parler des
And you know,
justement?
we're gonna be looking to add more to this, like what this weekly ritual feels like. These are the areas we are targeting initially here for Renegades.
all right. So let's move on to our final two subjects. Really are centered around sandbox.
Yeah.
First of which is going to be build crafting, and then the second is around just our general approach to balance. So we have another list here of. Honestly, we've been getting a ton of feedback around featured gear. We've been getting
Maintenant,
feedback around
tous les
like
exos
legendary weapon tiering.
sont
What are we
considérés
thinking?
comme
Yeah.
de
So
l'équipement de
this
saison.
whole space is about expanding build crafting
Enfin.
and gear chase.
Ouais.
And we hear y'all. Like we hear that featured gear is far too restrictive for how you're playing the game right now.
Dans le
And so
temps,
one of the
c'était
big changes
compliqué,
we're
hein. Tout ce que
making is
j'utilisais, c'était
all
pas de saison,
exotic
horrible.
weapons
Ouais.
and armor are going to be featured gear starting in Renegades. So the class items, your prismatic builds, they're back on the table. You don't
Alors,
have to worry about it
sous-entend par
anymore. You're not having to think
sunset
about what
feature
exotic you put on.
bonus.
It's all about what build you want to craft, right? The other thing that we've been listening
Plus
to
de
a
vol
lot when it comes to
space.
the gear chase is like,
Et des filtres.
hey, you know,
Oui.
you might earn a tier 1, 2, or 3 weapon, you know, a roll of a weapon you really love, your personal god roll, or the community saying this is a god roll, and you're looking at that and you're like, man, it's cool, but like it's not that top tier, right?
Un buff
And
qui est
so
super et
in
cette
Shadow and
classe.
Order, which is our major update coming after Renegades, you're going to be able to enhance the tier of your
J'ai pas
legendary
l'impression qu'on ait
weapons
forcément besoin d'un
all the
gros
way
buff
from
dessus.
tier 1 to tier 5.
On peut
with a new
augmenter les
currency
tirs des
and
armes
a
sur
new
une mise à
feature
jour qui
that we're
arrivera après
building for those.
Renegade.
Again, this is all about
Ça, c'est bien.
expanding that gear chase.
Yeah.
Ouais.
And before we get ahead of ourselves, like
Ça
as a
manquait.
player, and I'm guessing in chat,
Alors,
people
pause
are
non
saying,
critical.
oh, so I should be keeping my
Oh.
tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 weapons. Where am I going
Le
to put
pause
these?
non
What's
critical
going on with
nerf and
vault space?
balance
Yeah, so
changes, c'est pour
with
dire
Renegades,
qu'ils
we
vont se
are
calmer.
going to give you more vault space.
Ouais, je
That is
pense.
the thing we're going to be doing. And also, the team is working on a pretty big update to
On a
improve the
compris.
sorting and filtering of just using your vault in
Buff
game
de
as well.
super et subclasse. Bah après, tu vois, si
Yeah,
ça
we'll
peut...
have many more
Moi, je
details in
trouve
the
qu'il faut,
coming
faut ramener du
weeks
fun,
and
tu
months
vois.
when we
Donc,
get
si
this
t'es plus
roadmap
puissant,
together.
t'as plus
But
de fun.
our final note in
Ouais,
this section
après, là, je
before
trouve
we
qu'on
go
a
to
l'impression
balance
qu'il
is
y a moins de fun
the
parce qu'on est
portal
passé d'un
swap.
truc qui était
Yes,
vraiment
yeah. So
pété.
Oui.
on fait plus aucun dégât.
The featured
Avec la
new
saison
gear,
cryo,
there is
sur
just
vas-y,
an
t'es pété de
intrinsic
fou.
bonus that you
Genre, le
get
Titan,
for
il
wearing that
one-shotait
gear.
tout.
I guess it's extrinsic because we're asking
Ils
you
vont
to put it on.
l'augmenter
But anyway,
le
you
coffre
have it
garde,
on,
c'est le quatrième
you get a score
point
bonus in the portal, which
opération.
means you're not only thinking about like activity
Et de combien?
customization, your build, but also now you have to think about the
Si c'est
score
50.
too, and like, should I wear this or not in order to chase the high score? And for the vast majority of the experiences in the portal,
Franchement, pour
we think
profiter,
that's
faudrait
just
qu'il
too
le
much
double.
complexity right now.
Mais bon.
And
Clairement.
so we are sunsetting that
Ils feront
idea.
jamais
And so
ça.
again, this is going to drastically open up
Ils aiment
the
nous faire
space
râler,
for
je
you
crois.
to basically use whatever you want in the vast majority of things you play inside of the portal when you're chasing gear.
Et le fait d'avoir
and doing
directement
that
en
power
jeu les
climb.
filtres et
And
le
a North
le
Star
tri,
for
c'est
this,
bien.
when y'all were talking about
C'est
it, we've
normal,
had a
en
ton
fait,
of
ça devrait être là
conversations
depuis
with the
longtemps.
dev team. Is like,
Oui.
there's a lot of feeling of I'm playing Destiny the wrong way,
Bah, du
and
coup,
this was
maintenant, t'as la
contributing
réponse,
to it because I
Clara.
had to think, oh, if I put this armor
Clara,
on,
s'il
it's
vous plaît.
wrong. This helps that out and gets you
Mais on
into
sait pas
the
de
fun
combien de
faster.
places.
Yes.
So.
And then, like, we do believe and see a space for ways to highlight gear and exotics and things like that, you know, stuff we've done with the artifact for a while now. We want it to be part of the game because I think, you know, pushing people off of the super hot stuff is really healthy sometimes to just have more fun and experiment with things. But we know that we need to find ways to make this feel like a bonus and more excitement to do it
Ce
versus
serait
what
horrible, mais
we
imagine,
currently
il
have
rajoute
now,
genre
which is why we're
10
making these
places.
changes.
Awesome. Yeah, and then our last section here for quality of life.
Plot
Let's talk about
twist.
sandbox balance. Y'all have been really taking a lot
Alors.
of feedback to
Petite
heart
place et les
since
filtres.
the announce of quite a few nerfs and some balancing, and you have some new approaches to philosophy when it comes to this.
Yeah, so at the top here, one of the things we're doing is we're
Et les filtres,
upgrading
c'est
our
juste
internal
rangé par ordre
process for kind of how
alphabétique.
we evaluate our buff and nerf policies and also the timing of which when we go out and do those. And so a big part of that here through Renegade's launch is going to be non-critical balance changes are on pause right now.
C'est ça, voilà.
And so this is
Ils vont pas faire des
partially in reaction
micro-ajustements
to
toutes les 3
obviously some of
secondes.
the
Et je pense que
sentiment
c'est bien.
around some of the changes we're making, but it's
Ouais.
also it's giving time for us to make sure that when we do start to do more balance updates a
Oui,
little
ça
more
évite aussi
frequently
qu'ils fassent
again,
une mise à jour puis qu'ils reviennent sur
we
cette mise à jour.
communicate honestly. We just need to do a better job about communicating about why we're changing something and some of the intent behind it. And the reason I speak about this,
C'est bien, ils assument le fait
yeah, because you asked me this a
que
couple times in our rehearsal, Dylan. It's like,
Bah,
what is
qu'ils ont
not
été un peu
critical?
trop.
en fait, c'était pas le meilleur
no,
truc à faire.
Ouais, en mode dans 2 jours on change ça, et
We
puis la
really want
semaine
to make
prochaine on
sure
change
that
ça.
we're still making balance changes, or you know,
Des fois on
if we
trouvait des
have to
trucs
ban
cool et
something
puis ils les
for
changeaient
that
direct.
epic raid race or the dungeon race.
Surtout que c'était pas des fois des changements qui étaient nécessaires
Ouais, mais
là
c'est ce qu'il
maintenant.
dit, que c'est les non-critical.
important to us, and we know it's incredibly important to y'all.
Bien sûr,
And
s'il y a un
so,
truc qui fait que tu one-shot tout le
Again,
monde
we're
en
putting a
PvP,
pause
Ouais,
on
c'est
nerfs
ça.
and balance changes for now, but if we really need to change something because it's critical
Un petit
for those
Prométhée.
upcoming events, we'll make changes.
Yeah. And ultimately, it's like there's some things where you watch somebody go on a Titan and kill a raid boss in 2 punches. Like, that's critical. That needs to be toned down or balanced around.
Ils
But
ont
other
one-shot
things
les
like-
boss.
Non,
we
non.
actually have a list here of
Non, c'est pas
we
critical.
announced some tuning changes or nerfs that we're going to be reverting. Last week we were
si,
talking
ça.
about
C'est une
Grand
attaque de
Overture
mêlée,
and
c'est pas
Queenbreaker.
critical.
We're reverting the changes there.
Yes.
And then we had some
Mêlée, c'est
reworks
pas
to exotics like Stronghold, Chromatic Fire. We're going to be reverting those. And then as a part of this new initiative where we're looking at our philosophy, reevaluating how we do these things,
Ça, je trouve ça
we'll be
vraiment
looking
bien. Moi, les micros
how we approach
ajustements,
it
ça
and
me...
how we communicate it.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
Ouais, puis c'est chiant
And
parce que
then
t'es obligé de lire
final note,
14
to
patch
end on a
notes pour
high,
savoir
honestly,
ce qu'il y a
we've been
eu
talking about nerfs and all that. Let's
dernièrement.
talk about buffs.
Yeah, of course.
Quelque
Yeah.
part,
So
enfin,
we've got some buffs. We've been
Ah, ça,
working with the
c'est
gameplay
juste
team
parfaitement,
around supers and
Oui.
subclasses that are
Tout
going
fait
to be
exactement le même
coming.
dégât.
Some with Ash and Iron here in
Un peu de
October,
variété.
but
Un
then
truc
also
trop
in
pété
December
pendant
with
3 semaines, c'est pas
Renegades. I
grave.
think you've been
Mais
talking
oui.
with them a little more closely actually in the last 24
Yeah,
hours.
Big
On est là
thank you
pour
to
s'amuser,
Ben Womack, Eric Smith,
On aura du
Sandbox
fun
team.
avec ça. et
A
puis-
couple notes, like we saw a thread where folks were saying, hey, the original 3 supers that launched with Destiny 11 years ago, happy birthday.
Yeah.
They feel a bit undertuned. And I saw a note where it's like, Word of Dawn, Titan Bubble.
11 ans.
That needs to be
Oh, ça
brought
fait
up.
11 ans qu'on joue à
Golden
ce jeu.
Gun. I know Warlocks are getting some abilities changed.
Je
wow.
soon,
refuse
turrets, so-
cette
Nerf changes
information.
coming very
yeah,
soon.
and,
Yep.
and grenades and other things too outside of
Yep.
turrets. So we will have a full list over the coming weeks.
Ça veut dire que
And
j'avais
honestly, it may
26 ans.
build. We,
Oh, wow.
we need to get our roadmap together so we know exactly which hot fixes, updates they're going to be rolling out in. But yeah, we'll be as transparent as possible with you. So to really end it and get into the awesome
Je sais pas,
Ash
là,
and
ce
Iron
que ça veut
content,
dire, quoi.
like,
Non, ne
thank
dis
you
pas.
again to everybody that's been giving us feedback.
J'ai
Thank you to
pensé
everybody that's been
après.
playing and diving into all the changes. We know some need work, and we're going to be doing that. We've been listening, and now we're getting through the planning stages, and we're executing on a bunch
Eh
of
ben, c'est
changes over
bien,
the
hein.
next few updates and beyond Renegades. So, Robbie, thank you for joining us. As we're going into Ash and Iron, we got to get the catch full of new devs.
Yep.
So, yeah, Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. And yeah, we're listening and we're going to keep responding to the feedback. So thank you all so much.
Ils ont aussi fait un truc un peu plus intimiste au niveau de la présentation.
Yeah, you brought up
Juste
Vidoc.
un
We
gars
have
qui
a
parle.
trailer for Ash and roll.
Let's do it.
Enfin, il y avait aussi.
Ouais, ça évite d'avoir trop de personnes qui parlent en même temps.
Ouais.
We're sending you in to investigate and take action. Be ready for anything.
Bon, ça, c'est ce qu'on va voir après là.
Ça, c'est ce qu'il y avait sur YouTube déjà, je crois. Ouais. Le saut, j'avais trouvé trop stylé par-dessus la barrière.
Ben, ouais, le fait d'avoir juste un mec qui interviewe le gars qui fait la gestion de projet, lui, il sait tout, il sait pourquoi les choix ont été faits, il explique bien son truc. Je comprends l'idée de vouloir faire intervenir un peu chaque corps de métier, mais en vrai,
Ouais.
c'est bien aussi d'avoir un mec qui, justement, a la vision globale.
Enfin, pour une présentation comme ça, c'était mieux d'avoir qu'une seule personne.
Ouais, ouais. Je trouve ça beaucoup plus clair, en fait. La présentation était claire.
Et bah, tu t'habitues à comment la personne elle parle aussi, je trouve.
Et ça fait qu'ils ont pu organiser le truc bien pas à pas et tout, c'était bien comme ça.
Ouais.
Ça part pas dans tous les sens, j'ai pas pu...
Ça me fait toujours mal quand je vois ce passage. Mais ça repalait. Hein.
Ça, c'est vrai qu'on a toujours pas l'arbalète. Je te rends compte. Là, j'ai pas le temps de re-raid. Hein.
C'est horrible. En plus, il n'y a aucun chest que tu peux aller choper, c'est genre sans faire les
All
trucs.
right, welcome back. In about 20 minutes, the
Aucun
content
mode
from
que
that
tu fais
trailer
solo.
is going live. Let's talk about Ashen Iron.
Ça, c'est
We
pour
have a
Ashen
bunch of really
Iron,
cool
les
stuff
gens.
coming with a new activity called Reclaim.
Je pense
We have
que
a
je vais
new
couper là la
introductory
rediff.
activity that's going to be giving you some
En tout
insight
cas,
into the narrative.
attends.
We also
Parce que moi, je voulais juste vous faire un truc focus sur Renegade. Très contente.
Oui,
Je pense
Ashen
Voodoo,
Iron, c'est ok.
Ouais, bah, on va le tester juste après. De toute façon, je pense que Voodoo, t'as le même ressenti. Bah, en vrai, ils sont en
Yep.
mode... Ils ont entendu ce qu'on disait, quoi. Pour de vrai.
Ah, clairement, ouais. Là, ils ont vraiment écouté, donc c'est cool.
Il est là. Hop. Donc, ouais, bah top. Hâte de découvrir ça, de toute façon. Hein, et de pouvoir vous
Ouais, ça
en
hype en vrai.
partager plus.